Something terrible happened on the 57 bus in Oakland, California in 2013. Sasha Fleischman was a teenager who identified as agender, which is a non-binary gender identity. That afternoon, they fell asleep holding a copy of their assigned reading for Russian literature class at a private school. Even though the seasons were changing and the days were growing shorter, Sasha wore a gauzy white skirt to school that day. On that bus, there were 3 young black teenagers who that afternoon as well. And one of them, the 16-year-old Richard and his cousin Lloyd, well, there were 3 of them. They were acting silly. They were goofing off. They were letting off some steam after the day ended at Oakland High School. Richard flicked a cigarette lighter and he touched it to the hem of Sasha's white skirt. He set it on fire. Sasha spent over 3 weeks in a San Francisco burn unit, receiving surgery after surgery to treat the 2nd and 3rd degree burns across their legs. Richard was arrested and charged with 2 felonies. He was charged as an adult, and he faced the possibility of lifetime behind bars. Something terrible happened on the 57 bus and changed 2 young lives forever. That's the agonizing and very real premise of today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, the award-winning nonfiction novel, The 57 Bus by Daska Slater. The 57 Bus is a heart-wrenching look at 2 very different young people forever connected by this terrible moment. A white prep school kid grappling with their gender identity, and a black kid from a tough neighborhood recovering from the trauma of a robbery and the death of a close friend. In the pages of The 57 Bus, Slater allows both of them their full story. There are no winners here. Split into 4 parts, Sasha, Richard, the fire, and justice, The 57 Bus is a story that's carefully told in shades of gray, examining the darkest and most complex parts of our society, our country, our world, racism, homophobia, classism, and a broken legal system that exposes our most vulnerable people. This book is so nuanced, so lyrically written, so character-driven, and so all-encompassing that it's easy to forget that it's actually a true story, but it is. The 57 Bus began as an eloquent and equally moving and well-researched piece, originally for the New York Times Magazine. Slater spent 3 years investigating what happened on the 57 Bus and its aftermath. And by expanding upon her original reporting, Slater was able to even add more critical context. For example, Slater's examination of Oakland, a city defined by disparity in income, safety, and opportunity, is particularly poignant. Quote, Oakland High, wasn't the best school in Oakland, but it wasn't the worst one either, not by a long shot. It was right in the middle in almost every respect. There was football, baseball, basketball, track, as long as you could keep your GPA above a 2.0. The finish line was marked with a cap and a gown and a march across the stage. You could get there if nothing knocked you down, but life had a way of sticking its foot out, sending you sprawling, end quote. We live in a world where hot takes and snap judgments get you clicks and notoriety. The 57 Bus is a salient and much-needed reminder of how just important it is to listen, to weigh the context, to read it all. I'm joined by Daska Slater, a journalist and author of 15 books of fiction and nonfiction for children and adults, including today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, the award-winning and New York Times best-selling nonfiction book, The 57 Bus. Daska, thank you so much for coming in. It's such a complex story that you turned into this book that I hope we did you justice when we introduced it. And now I want to tell the viewer more of it. One of the most heart-wrenching moments in the 57 Bus is when we learn that Richard wrote letters to Sasha and that his lawyer passed them along over a year later. I want to read part of one of the letters, which reads, I regret what I did. I didn't know what your clothing would catch, that your clothing would catch like it did, even though I had no reason to do it anyways. I didn't know what was going through my head. I've committed a stupid act of violence, and I'm going to be punished for that, and I accept all consequences that I receive because you didn't deserve this. I didn't even know you, and I still don't. I was hoping that I can meet you face to face so I can apologize to you. I am not a thug, gangster, hoodlum, nor monster. I'm a young African-American male who's made a terrible mistake. Not only did I hurt you, but I hurt your family and friends, and also my family and friends, for I have brought shame to them and our country, and I shall be punished, which is going to be hard for me because I'm not made to be incarcerated, end quote. That's a lot. Tell me a bit about that.
One of the very first conversations that I had with Richard's lawyer, he mentioned that Richard had written a couple of heartfelt letters to Sasha, but that he wasn't able to share them because Richard's case was still ongoing and Richard was in quite a bit of legal peril. And one of the many tragedies of this story was that those letters actually were never shown to anybody until after the case was already decided. And Richard's lawyer had good reason for that. He didn't want to let the cat out of the bag and, have an admission of guilt. But at the same time, it's clear how heartfelt these letters were. I finally was able to see the letters myself after the case had been decided. And I remembered hearing that there were letters. And so I asked the lawyer to send them to me. And so I actually read them before Sasha and their family did.
Oh, wow.
And I remember walking. Yeah. And so but I wanted them to see the letters before they came out in the New York Times. So they live in the same neighborhood as me. And so I said, Sasha was already away at college, but their parents were around. And so we met in our neighborhood and sat down on somebody's front steps, basically, just looking for a place on the sidewalk so that they could read them and then call Sasha and read them aloud to Sasha.
The story that you write about, the 57 bus, takes place just over 10 years ago. It was 2013. And you make that point in the book that at the time, the language or understanding of Sasha's identity was unclear. In fact, you wrote, quote, inside the courtroom, reporters discussed the best terms to use when describing Sasha: gender fluid, gender queer, gender nonconforming, agender. I say he was wearing a skirt, one reporter offered. He gave a weary shrug, as if attempting to use more accurate language would require Herculean effort. The terms change all the time. I almost think that could have been written 2 weeks ago.
Unfortunately, I had the thought when I was working on this book that, maybe this won't be an issue anymore. By the time the book comes out, you always have that concern with nonfiction that, maybe the issue will have passed. I don't know why I thought that, but I certainly thought that perhaps 10 years in the future, there wasn't going to be so much concern for the safety of trans and gender nonconforming people. I had hoped that we would have grown as a nation and become a more accepting place. And unfortunately, the reverse has happened.
Yeah. We are at a very low point on that. Forgiveness, by the way, is a major theme in the 57 bus. I want to read some of what Sasha's father said after his family received Richard's letters after you had seen them. Quote, I believe Richard when he says he meant no bodily harm to Sasha, but I also believe that Sasha would not have been a target if Sasha had been wearing jeans. From the start, we've been opposed to Richard being tried as an adult, he said. His actions appear to have been impulsive, immature, and unpremeditated. He did make a big mistake and recognizes that. He asked for our forgiveness. Carl's voice broke. Sasha, Debbie, and I have forgiven Richard, he whispered. We hope the state will focus more on preparing him for the world beyond incarceration than on punishing him, end quote. Now, he read that in the courtroom before Richard's sentencing. Tell me about that moment.
At that point, Richard had already received a longer sentence than he had been hoping for. And this case had been going on for a really long time, as Sasha's family had tried really to just stay neutral and to say, we don't know enough about this to have an opinion other than that juveniles are juveniles and should be treated as juveniles by the system. And Richard's mother had been advocating as much as she knew how for Richard to have a future and to be able to learn from this mistake and grow from it and have a chance to do better next time, which I believe is what we should ask of any young person who causes harm. And so the judge had asked the families to come back after several months after Richard had been sent to a state facility and had a chance to be evaluated. And during that time, my article had come out. Richard's letters had been received finally. Richard had done extremely well as an inhabitant of a state facility.
Yeah.
And so they came back before the judge as for an opportunity for resentencing. And the resentencing was really important for one reason, that if Richard could complete his sentence while he was still young, he would not spend any of his time in an adult facility.
Right.
But if the sentence was going to continue past his age of maturity, then he would go right away to an adult facility. And I probably don't need to spell it out, but adult facilities are not an appropriate place for a 16-year-old kid. So I've spoken, I do a lot of prison reporting. Not a good thing to have happen to a juvenile.
It's a remarkable book. Thank you for becoming the newest member of the Velshi Band Book Club. Dashka Slater is the author of The 57 Bus.